Hello friends, a very warm welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to talk about Unimech Aerospace, which is a company doing a niche business in a sector which is aerospace, which is the talk of the town these days. If you are new to our channel, please do subscribe and hit the bell icon to get updates of all the new videos that I upload. Here is a small disclaimer as per SEBI regulations. You can pause the video and read it. We'll discuss the video in three parts. In the first part, we'll talk about the business of the company. In the second part, we'll talk about the financials. And in the third part, we'll talk about the valuations. So in simple words, Unimech Aerospace makes tools and precision components and parts for the aerospace industry. Earlier, the company was restricted only into aerospace, but now they are diversifying their business into other industries like nuclear power, semiconductor, and even defense sector. So it's a precision engineering company, which means that the parts that they make or the tools that they make are very critical for the clients, and they involve a lot of precision. So any other company cannot easily manufacture those things. This business requires a lot of approvals from the client side. A lot of certifications are required to do this business. So to enter this business is not easy. Getting orders from the customers takes a hell lot of time. Then after getting the orders also, to deliver things at that quality and that precision is not easy for a very long time. This is not a business where you get a lot of volume, where you manufacture the same part in a large quantity. The companies usually make specific SKUs in low volumes, but they have a variety of SKUs running into thousands and thousands. So this company has 4,511 SKUs in the tooling business and 1094 SKUs in the precision parts. What is the difference between a tool and a precision part? A tool is something where you use that particular tool to assemble an aircraft or to maintain that particular aircraft. Whereas a precision part is a part which goes inside that particular aircraft and becomes one with the aircraft itself. So this is not a regular linear business where you get a steady revenue over a long period of time. This is a project-driven business, product-driven business. So this business can be lumpy. This company has nearly 86% of their revenue coming from abroad, and most of that revenue comes from US. So the good part is it is not easy to enter this geography to get these kinds of clients. And the bad part is high dependence on a single country and major dependence on export revenue, considering the present geopolitical situation. Things like the US tariff, any international war can impact the business of this company to a great extent. They have 3 manufacturing facilities right now, and they have done a lot of capex recently. That's why their capacity utilization is just 60%. They are also coming up with a tech park which is in pipeline on an area of 4 acres. This company was incorporated in 2016, so it's not a very old company, and they got listed in 2024. Here is a simple explanation of their business. The customer comes with a requirement to them. He specifies what they want, specifically about the dimensions and the precisions. This company develops a prototype. They do the design and engineering in coordination with the customer itself. Once the prototypes are developed, the customer tests those prototypes, and if they further need any changes, they inform Unimech. Or if the prototype gets approved, then Unimech takes the order, manufactures those products identical to the prototypes, and gives it to the customers. In terms of the end user industries, majority of the revenue comes from aerospace, and now they are diversifying into other industries like nuclear, defense, semiconductor, and new energy, as we discussed. This is a detail about their manufacturing capacities. They have a subsidiary called Unimech, which is a 100% owned subsidiary. They have increased the capacity of the subsidiary from 81,930 hours to 5 lakh hours in the recent 9 months FY26. And that's why the utilization is about 50%. Unimech's capacity is also drastically increased. So that is about 50% as well. Their first segment of business, which is aero tooling, a majority of the revenue comes from this, about 77%. These are tools used in the purpose of assembling aircraft engines, maintaining the aircraft, which is MRO. Again, this is a very fast growing industry across the globe. They have customers like Airbus, Boeing, Pratt & Whitney, Rolls-Royce. So by listening to this, you will understand that it's not easy to work with this kind of customers. They are very particular about who they work with, what they want, because something which goes into an aircraft or something which is used in repairing an aircraft has to be very critical component. Second business is the precision components and assemblies, which is a growing business, not a major contributor to the revenue today, but growing faster than their main business because the company also wants reduction in the business concentration and diversification. In this, they manufacture components. Now we are using the word components for nuclear plants, defense systems, semiconductor machines, and aerospace parts as well. Compared to tooling, this business initially will have lower margins, and the margins will scale as they go forward. But in terms of opportunity size, the market size in India and globally is huge. In terms of revenue breakup, 77% comes from aero tooling and 23% from precision components. This is a brief organization structure of the company. They have 100% subsidiary called Unimech Toolings. Then they recently acquired 30% stake in a company called Dheya Engineering Technologies. And they also formed a joint venture in Saudi Arabia with another company called Canu. Coming to the size of the industry, it's a big industry and Unimech is a very small player in this industry within India and globally. The global MRO market is expected to be nearly $120 billion in 2025. And in terms of the number of aircrafts being added, Airbus forecasts that about 43,420 aircrafts will be required in the next 20 years. Nuclear, as you know, the Indian government is also giving a lot of importance to this power generation method these days. They have a lot of incentive subsidiaries. A lot of research is going on in this sector. This is expected to grow from 8.8 gigawatts to 22 gigawatts by 2032. Although this is a niche business, there is still competition within India as well as abroad because this company gets major revenue from exports. So in terms of listed peers, there would not be any identical peer for this company. In the unlisted space, there are companies like Igniting Minds Aerospace, Tata Advanced Systems. Internationally, there are companies like Dedin Aerospace, RH Aero Systems. And in India, in the new precision components which this company is entering into, we have a listed peer which is MTAR Technologies. Now, what is so different about this company or what is their competitive edge over the others? They have a lot of certifications already, which is difficult for a new company to get, which creates entry barriers in this business. Even if you get these certifications to get customer orders, there are long approval cycles. It may take years and years to get customer approvals also. Once you get all this, the customers are sticky customers. They don't want to change old vendors. So even if you get into this business, it may not be easy to get business from the other competitors. The customers usually see the track record of the vendor. So this company has a long track record, at least for the last 5 years or so. And the capabilities which the company has developed over a period of time is their moat. Then what are the growth plans of this company going forward? They have an unexecuted order book of about 214 crores right now. And as the US tariff issue is behind us and things are getting rationalized now, the disruption which the company saw in their business will go away and the business should ideally bounce back from the next year. There's a concept called free trade warehousing zone. So the company is developing this facility and once this is ready, their business will benefit a lot. So what is this is from India, if the company wants to send the goods, they'll set up this zone and the goods may lie there. So the company which is buying goods from them, they don't have to pay the import duty immediately. Exporting from here, importing in the other country and the goods lying in this FTWZ facility will be with very less formalities without import duties. And once the customer wants to buy those goods, at that point of time, they can purchase by paying the import duty. So by this, the paperwork gets reduced. The customer doesn't have to pay import duty upfront and just-in-time inventory can be provided to their customers in that particular country. The company is diversifying into nuclear power and they have already started getting orders in that. That segment is growing pretty fast. Semiconductor businesses will start coming into picture very soon. Geography-wise, the company is thinking of de-risking themselves from the US market. They have set up a new JV in Saudi Arabia. It's a 51-49 JV with Canu Group. They are building advanced machining, remanufacturing platform. They are planning to invest about $30 billion in the next 3 years, targeting about 30 million revenue in the year 5. High margins, 35% EBITDA margin, 20% PAT margin and break even by year 3. The bad part is they guided for 300 crore revenue in FY26. They could not achieve it. Now they are thinking that compared to FY25, they may see degrowth as a year in FY26 and EBITDA may be around 25%. They have not given guidance for FY27 right now. Order book is around 200 crores, but it's not very impressive as such. But compared to the historical averages, it is much above the historical levels. Now, the main risk in this company is they are mostly dependent on the US market for their revenue, and one decision by Donald Trump can change the fate of this company. The second business concentration is their majority of the revenue comes from aero tooling. So if the aerospace business doesn't do well, then their business is impacted. Utilization levels are low. So if the utilization remains low, the fixed costs are high and the margins are lower for any business. The margins in the business can be lumpy and volatile. That is a risk. They have to manage their working capital very efficiently. If they maintain very high inventory or get their money slow from the debtors, that could be a challenge. And they are trying to enter very new businesses. So there could be an execution risk in that. Before we move forward, if you're not a part of our Telegram channel, do join today by clicking the link in the description so that you join the correct Telegram channel. Every day before the market opens, I share my views on the market and I share a lot of portfolio allocation strategies which will help you increase your returns. More than 10,000 people are daily in touch with me on my Telegram channel. It's a free channel. You can join by clicking the link in the description. Coming to the financials, the revenue went up sharply from about 36 crores in FY22 to 243 crores in FY25, which was a major jump. But now in the trailing 12 months, we see a degrowth in the revenue with 227 crores. This was majorly impacted by the US tariff thing which had come up. So because of that, the customers started deferring their orders. And as the revenue got reduced, the margins also got impacted. The similar pattern you'll see in EBITDA, which has gone down from 92 crores to 67 crores in the trailing 12 months. And the margins, which went up from 22% to 38% at one point of time in FY25, have come down to 30% now. Return ratios still are good, although they are lower than before. If you see the trailing 12 months or the 9 months FY26, the return ratios will appear even lower than this because the utilization levels are low, revenue is also low. Promoter holding is still 79.8%. So the company either has to do some QIP or sell to any institutional investor to bring down this below 75% in the next 3 years, which is within 3 years from the date of IPO, which could be an overhang in the stock. Debt equity ratio is fairly okay. Debtors are slightly on the higher side. Inventory is okay. Cash flow is also fairly good, although it is too early to conclude. We'll see a couple of years post listing and decide how the cash flow conversion is actually. One thing which I didn't like in the financials is the companies paying pretty high remuneration to their management. If you see the related party disclosure in the annual report, the FY25 report says that the management remuneration is above 7 crores. And there is also an item called provision for variable pay for directors, which is about 5 crores. So this is one gray area in their annual report. For a company of this size, I felt that the remuneration is on the higher side. Now coming to the last part, which is the most interesting part, that is the valuations. The stock went down sharply from about 1500 levels to almost 700 levels, which is nearly half. And now it is trading at around 850. The chart is very weak. We cannot conclude that the bottom is made on the charts. IPO was at 785. So the people who participated in the IPO made good money if they exited at the top. And they are still above their cost at 850 also. EV/EBITDA is about 40x, PE is about 65x. So if you're a shareholder of this company and you have not exited at the top, you can continue to hold and give the company a couple of more quarters or max to max 1 year to see whether the growth comes back and the margins go back to their normal levels. If you're looking at a fresh entry at these valuations of 40x EV/EBITDA, 65 PE, I don't find the valuation so attractive. And looking at the degrowth in the recent quarters, don't give me much confidence to start buying the stock right now. I would give the company a couple of quarters, maybe see the Q4 and Q1 results. And if I see growth coming back, the order book improving, the company reducing their risk by diversifying into new geographies, new businesses, and at the same time valuations cool off a bit and become more reasonable. At that point of time, I think I can look at this company again. Till then, it will remain in my watch list. So that's about Unimech Aerospace. I tried to simplify everything in a short video and tell you. If you like it, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you want me to make videos on your favorite stocks, do mention the names in the comment section. Do join our Telegram channel by clicking the link in the description. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.